I'm Allison Bixler.
Hello, I am Jessica Call. Today we are going to be talking about home play spaces and how to set up the environment in your home for your child. We will be discussing the intentions for this play space, furniture and organization, designing centers within your home, outdoor and small spaces, and we will also give you a classroom tour of one of our classrooms.
So, when thinking about what you want your play space to look like, there are some specific adjectives that should come to mind. You want that space to be child-centered, you want it to be unique to your child, you want to keep it organized so they can be independent, but you also don't want it to be overwhelming. It doesn't need to have lots and lots and lots of materials out at all times. You want it to stay organized and, again, so they can navigate things independently.
Okay, so the first topic that we're going to discuss is furniture and organization. So within your play space at home, it's very important to keep the furniture low, to have it be the height of your child. If they're sitting behind a table like this, they're not really able to sit properly and engage with the materials the way that they should. So we have some pictures of different things that you could have at your home, just to have the toy shelves very low to the ground, not too many toys on each shelf, but again, just to make sure that everything is low to the ground, including like the table that your child would work on. And old furniture, the wonderful thing, there's so many Pinterest ideas that old furniture can be repurposed into magnificent things for your child. So here's an example of an old entertainment system that was converted into a dress-up center. Okay, so multi-purpose furniture ideas. Again, in your home, if you have a small space, the more storage that you have, you can use it for different items. So storage bins like this could be utilized for blocks. This here is a table from
my classroom.
From Miss Allison's classroom, and you got it from IKEA?
IKEA, yeah. And it's nice because it's very low, but there's also lots and lots of room for storage underneath. So I can put materials at the back that are not open, and then materials that I want students to be able to access at the front.
And then here's another one. It just has multiple bins, and I know that these bins too are from IKEA, and the kids can just pull the bins as they go. And the wonderful thing for that too is having the bins, you can maybe for 1 week have blocks out at your house. The next week you can change it up to, different kitchen area. You can change those bins out so they're not always the same for your child. So for storing items, my favorite way to do this at my own home, as some of you know, I do have a preschool child, and then I also have a kindergartner. So we store a lot of our toys in big bins, and all of our trains are in a bin, all of our kitchen materials, like the food and the plates and everything, that's in another bin. And those are not always accessible to my boys. I kind of rotate those out so they don't get bored with the materials. Another thing that I really have found to be very helpful is busy bags to go with you, and you can use these in any room of your house, and you can also take these with you to restaurants, just any place that your kid would need to be entertained for a little bit, and all the materials would be in this one. So this one is just a simple sorting activity in a busy bag. Everything here is I got these from the dollar store, and then I just, you can store different materials in the bins and make them easy to use at your house or, again, when you're out and about. I've also found that like the tin items, I really enjoy using those just for different things. Unfortunately, as we know, a lot of toys right now come with multiple pieces. So an example is Buzz Lightyear. My boys love Toy Story, so the Buzz Lightyear has a bunch of little pieces, so I found a Toy Story tin, so all of his gears go in that bin, so the boys know that that is for Toy Story. Another thing for storing items is just using even the small bins. Legos, it fell off, but this here is my Lego bin. You can just hot glue this on, and then all of the materials are right here in your bin, and your kid can build. So again, it's just easy access within your home instead of bringing out, just a big bucket that they can dump. Yeah, that you just give them this, and they can sit there and they can build. Yes. Another huge thing is to label your bins. So like this one here, build the letters, so the kids know that this one is for build the letters. Again, within your home, since we do have preschool children, using pictures is very effective for them. So like this one here, you know, are the railroad tracks. The trains go in one, the cars go in another. And just teaching them that everything in your home, especially their toys, has a place. This way that they can clean up independently, which is, we're striving for them to be independent people.
So a big consideration when you're mapping out your play space is designing some really defined centers for purposeful play. Sometimes if you have a play space, it might become, you know, the kids are bringing in all of the materials, they're kind of just dumping things everywhere, and it becomes, you know, this wild mishmash of toys. But if you give them some defined spaces and they understand, you know, this might be my block center, this is my writing center, that will help keep those materials in the places that they belong. But first you want to think about setting the space. And so you're going to want to use the furniture well to define certain spaces. So I really liked how in this picture here in the corner, there is a shelf that's also being used as a divider. Especially if you're working with more limited space, using the furniture rather than, you know, putting up an actual divider or a curtain or anything is much more efficient use of the space. You want to decorate that space with your child's artwork or photographs of your family or past things that they've made. You want to leave large areas, if possible, for like more active play. So as you can see here, they have some of those interconnecting foam mats down so that, you know, if they want to tumble while they're doing something else, they have a little bit more space to move. And then finally, have a smaller amount of toys available, which I know Jessica and I have both talked about previously, and rotate them out frequently. That's going to keep, like I described earlier, that like crazy mismatch of all the toys all together all the time. If you're giving them, you know, 5 things at a time to play with, or, you know, a few different building materials at a time, that'll limit those opportunities for things to get a little bit crazy, and it will also encourage more purposeful play.
And also too, you know, with rotating the bins, every time you bring something out,
it's new. It's novel.
Yeah.
It's so fun to be like, guys, when I'm in my own classroom, we played with this, you know, in November, but it's been away, and when I bring it back out again, everybody's like, oh, the take-apart dinosaurs are back.
Right, and it becomes interesting again,
yeah.
And they're able to interact with it instead of it just sitting in a corner.
Right, right. You want to, in terms of your materials that you're going to put in your play space, try and find toys that require them to use their imagination and limit toys that have sounds. So, you know, there are a lot of toys out there that will make lots of, you know, noise, and they have lots of fun, engaging, interactive parts. But we really want to encourage kids to engage in play that is very imaginative. And so we have some examples here of materials that would be more, you know, that open-ended, things that they would really have to get in there and decide how they want to play with it, what they're going to do with it, and et cetera. Do you have anything else to add about that? I know that's a very important piece.
Yes, for me that was huge. You know, just finding toys that did not make noise. That was my goal for Christmas this year.
Yeah.
I said I did not want tons of toys that make noise, because I feel like it really takes away kids' imaginations. When we were younger, we would drive trucks.
Yeah, play with horses, yeah.
Like, hey, but now everything makes the sound. So the more toys that you have that don't make the noise really helps foster that imagination.
So now I'm going to talk to you a little bit about some defined centers that we would consider to be very core, even when you're setting up like a preschool classroom, but also can be applied to your home. And so the first of those is a literacy center. So giving them a little corner in your space to read, to interact with books, and to maybe interact with, if you have stuffed animals of favorite characters. And so what I have here are just a few different materials that you could include in that space. One that I would stress is have some seating. I know they make, you know, little child-sized chairs and couches, but just a beanbag is perfectly sufficient. And I know I have great memories of being young and sitting in a beanbag and reading a book. It's a very cozy place to be. You want to try and rotate, just like with your toys, different books things that they might absolutely love. Like in my class right now, everybody's really into Don't Let the Pigeon Drive the Bus. They have been since about September, but I'll leave that on the shelf and also rotate in some new titles that I know they'll start to gain some interest in as well. And so you want to face covers outwards when you're orienting all of your books, just because if they're, on a shelf with the spines facing out, just like, adults would have, kids might not be able to navigate them as easily. They might start pulling all of them out because they're looking for a specific book. So just having a limited number of books this is from Walmart, I think it's about $25, on a shelf that has all the covers facing outwards will keep things organized and interesting and make reading fun. And I know I mentioned earlier, there are, stuffed animals that can go along with your books, or puppets that go along with your books. Kohl's always has like these $5 books and a $5 stuffed animal. So you could maybe grab a few of those, put them in your literacy center as like book buddies for them to read with at home.
And I think another component to add too is you do not have to have everything in one area. If you have a small space, their literacy center can be in their bedroom. The blocks can be, in bins that you just move out.
Right.
If you have space for this is wonderful to have the defined
I
space
agree.
like in the area. But if you don't have a lot of space, it's okay to have them in different areas of your house and for your child to understand that that's where they go.
To do that activity. And we'll show you later some awesome ideas for if you are working with like a smaller space, how to, put a couple centers here, and keep that defined space so that they know what they're doing in all those areas. And then the next is a writing center. And so you want to have lots of materials out like pencils, chalk, whiteboard markers, and things for them to write on like envelopes, cards, notepads, all of that you can just get at Dollar Tree. I know kids are always so excited to write on like real stationery or real cards. It really makes them, get excited about writing. Another recommendation I would have is think a little bit outside the box. If you're setting up a little table for them to maybe do some writing or some drawing at, include things like letter magnets or letter puzzles, or there's these things called alphabots that are little robots. They look like transformers. So just so that, they're engaging in, letter activities beyond just starting to make like pre-writing strokes or writing on a page. Do you have anything to add, Miss Jessica?
And the wonderful thing, like you mentioned, the dollar store, you don't have to go and buy tons of new things. You can use things that you have at home, an old cookie sheet.
Yeah.
Just different things that you already have. Or
Sticky notes
or don't go out and
pencils.
spend tons of money on these materials. The Dollar Tree is, I think, our favorite store.
Yes, it is my favorite store.
So we're able to
for
get a lot
sure.
of our materials from there.
Right. But again, I would just stress different materials to write on and write with, and also some things that aren't necessarily writing materials but would relate to letters and writing. The next thing that I want to tell you about is dramatic play. I love dramatic play. I have many fond memories of, being in the pretend kitchen. My students love it in my classroom. And so creating a little corner for them to engage in pretend play, as we've been stressing, is going to help keep all those stuffed dogs and doctor's kits and play food in one space, and help them engage in purposeful play. So the first recommendation that we would have is think of what they like. If they're really, really into PJ Masks, maybe you could get just a PJ Masks costume or two, or any other favorite characters. Use real materials where appropriate. So that would be like, there are some tools and some doctor's materials that are totally safe and appropriate for a child to use and have independently. Or just like a real baby bottle. Like I mentioned earlier with writing, kids love, real stuff. Like they feel super excited to be like, this is a real bottle, this is a real thing that I'm engaging with and using in my own play. And so I would also say include opportunities to write and build and create within this center. So even though we really are stressing a lot of like trying to make some defined spaces, trying to have a little bit of that crossover between certain centers. Like for example, if you have somebody who's really into construction and they have a construction costume, well, then you could put a couple bins of blocks out just so they can start being like, well, I'm the construction worker. I'm going to make this city, or I'm going to make this this town. And then the last thing that I would say is you could try and structure some scenarios. So like, I know we do a flower shop, and the flower shop is just a bunch of flowers from Dollar Tree and some Dollar Tree vases. And so, giving them like a theme, it doesn't always have to be, I know popular ones are doctor or construction worker, but there are some really great ideas out there about cheap, easy pretend play scenarios that kids absolutely love. And then the next would be an art center. So if you might be working with a little bit more limited space, you could just have an art cart that would be good to move in and out of the space as needed. And some things that we wanted to stress were to let your child create their own product, even if it's all, sometimes artwork is very conceptual, especially when you're 3 to 5 years old. So I would just encourage you to let them go for it, make their own thing, and see what comes out of it, because it's usually very cool. Like I said, conceptual, but awesome.
Trees don't always need to be green.
Exactly.
The sun doesn't always need to be yellow.
Right.
And we're trying to really foster that imagination.
For sure. Another thing I want to stress is giving them materials that they can be independent with. So things like pom-poms and paint dabbers, glue sticks, which I know glue, but as opposed to white glue, it's much easier to manage. That will let them, again, be independent. You won't have to always be helping them do things within their art center, especially if something is hard to manage, like a specific paintbrush or something. They might be constantly asking me, will you do this for me? So just keep it all easy, independent stuff. And then when they're done, I would display everything everywhere. Kids are like ecstatic, even if you're just putting up a crayon drawing. So keeping that as the decor for their play space would be appropriate. And then I know we've talked a lot about blocks, so we wanted to talk more about having a little specific block area, or the different materials that you might include for your child to build with. And so the first thing we would like to say is think about some out-of-the-box building materials. And so if you see here, somebody has some little paper towel rolls that it looks like they're using as logs to build a barn, red Solo cups even. I've seen kids make very cool structures with something as simple as that. And then, your traditional big blocks and wooden blocks, just giving them a variety. And sometimes, they might start putting all of the blocks together and making very cool structures. But if you only have a couple, 2, 3 different materials out at a time, that'll keep it from, becoming a huge mess that everybody has to team up on to clean up at the end. But you know what? That is okay too. If they build something enormous that goes all the way to the ceiling, that is going to be very memorable and exciting for them. And then the last center that we wanted to talk about is a discovery center. So some of you may have seen, if you've been in our classrooms, these things called sensory bins. They're like a big, maybe like 2-3 inches deep tray that we put things like sand and water and rice and dirt and rocks and different materials for them to explore in. Now what's great is they are also about the same size as like an under the bed shoe bin, like one of those big ones. And so you could just have one of those, pop it out on a table, and there's your sensory center, easy peasy. So some other things that you could have in there are slime, rocks and sand, dirt, snow, anything that's very nature oriented, I would say. I know that's something that you do with your boys a lot.
Yeah, so they love anything with the outdoors. So like here, like we did rocks, brought in some rocks from outside, and they ended up sorting them. So that was, a good learning task. And then this here is the kinetic sand, and then there's a bunch of like trucks and diggers for them to use too. That was a huge hit. So they had their construction gear, but then they were able to take the kinetic sand and play with that at the table and continue again, carrying over the different construction activities.
So it was pretend play, it was hands-on play.
All right, so the next topic that we're going to have is my personal favorite, outdoor and small spaces. Obviously not right now. Obviously, yes, but very cold. But if you have the opportunity, of course, go play out in the snow. But explore the outdoors because it's a wonderful play area and so many different things can happen. And just providing your child with that multisensory opportunities that help them to learn. So allow your child to get dirty. It's okay if they're covered in mud and dirt and all of that wonderful stuff. It really helps them, just learn different environments. Use your backyard or outside area to let your child explore. So this here was a flower bed that When my son was little, he started taking all of his trucks. So instead of using it as a flower bed, it became a construction site. And that is, they would dig in that for hours. They would find bugs, just anything, to allow your child just to explore outdoors. Here, this is a dirt pile that we had at our house to, work in the yard with. We ended up having extra, so we left it out for a while and let the boys just play in it and get dirty. Ideas for your space. As we've talked about in my house, we don't have room to do tons and tons of areas. Our upstairs, I have bins for everything. Art bin comes out that has the crayons, the markers, things like that. I bring up block bins, train bins. All of that can just be brought up into the space that you have. If you have larger areas like we talked about, more power to you, and let your imagination go wild and just allow it to be a very child-centered, friendly environment for them.
Yeah, and I particularly love these pictures because they do display, like you can see some defined centers here. Like this is where they might do some writing. This is where their books are. This is where their toys are. Here's a little bit of space for them to do like some gross motor activities. And same with the other two pictures. Like you can do a lot even with just a little nook of a hallway, or in this picture it's next to a couch. In this picture it's behind a couch. I know when I was younger we had a space behind our couch, like it was moved up a few feet, and there is a great wealth of space even if it might be a little bit smaller.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a wonderful example of, just find any area in your house that you could make into their area and hang their artwork and things like that. So, all right, well, our next thing that we are going to do is have a classroom tour. So we are going to go up to Miss Melissa's room and show you some more ideas.
So we're in Miss Melissa's classroom at Strongsville Early Learning Preschool, and we're just going to take a look at a few of the different centers she has out right now and how that relates to things that we talked about doing at home.
And she does a wonderful job truly defining the center.
Absolutely. We are in Miss Melissa's Pretend Play Center, and right now she has a post office out for her students. And you can see right away she's got some low tables. Students can sit there very comfortably and write to create different packages and letters. As you can see, she's got some of these real materials out. They're real Priority Mail Express stickers that students can use when writing their letters or mailing their packages. And then panning over here, you can see she has used her shopping cart as a mail truck. So again, we talked earlier about just, repurposing furniture. Well, you can also repurpose toys. The great thing about young children is they're very imaginative. So if you say, this is your mail cart, let's go send some mail, they'll be excited to play right along.
And then over here too, she has more real materials. So the boxes, the bubble wrap.
All things that you can get easily and use at home if you wanted to do, say, a mail center at home. So here we have Miss Melissa's Building Center, and she has a variety of different building materials out, but it's organized, it is child-friendly, there's labels, so that students, when they're done with the material, can put it right back. So as you can see, you can have, a bunch of different fun materials out without, it being overwhelming. So I really love how she has this center set up.
So this is Miss Melissa's Literacy Center. So as you can see, she has pillows for the children to read too. She also has reading buddies right here that the children are able to read the books to. And again, she has all Valentine's books for the kids since it's Valentine's Day, for them to be able to read a variety of different books.
So now we're in Miss Melissa's Writing Center, and as you can see, she has a bunch of different materials, not just writing materials in this center. Lots of different letter materials like letter beads, those letter robots that I talked about earlier, letter tiles, so a bunch of different materials just to promote letter recognition. And there are some students at this age level who are starting to put together words, so it's a fun way to do it beyond just writing with pencil and paper. And so here she has a space for them to write. She has markers, crayons, words for them to write off of. And again, that table is very low, the seating is very low. And that is the same table that I have in my classroom. It's from IKEA. Very good resource if you're looking for some furniture to put in your play space. So this is a great idea for storing some of those smaller pieces that you may have your child playing with. Miss Melissa has Legos and pattern blocks, popsicle sticks and cups, all different kinds of small building materials available in these drawers, and students can independently access them and return them when they are done. So the last thing we wanted to share with you is Miss Melissa's Art Center, and she has a variety of materials that students can use independently. Like I said earlier, dot markers, she's got shape stickers, and everything is clearly labeled so that students can return things when they are finished.
We want to say thank you for watching, and we hope that you learned some cool new tricks for your play space at home. Enjoy the time with your child. Bye.